So the word prom itself comes from the word promenade. It typically means a place to take a leisurely stroll. It also is used to describe movements in ballet and ballroom dancing. But during the late 1800s, it took on a new meaning thanks to the Ivy League colleges. Promenade concerts at this time featured young people dressed to the nines and dancing. It was like, put on your tuxedo, we're going to listen to music and dance on the promenade. And I don't know, maybe we're lazy or something, but I guess we thought promenade was too long, so we were like, prom, just prom. I mean, no one knows for sure when the first American prom was celebrated, but it was at some point. The first prom mentioned in the record books happened on December 5th, 1879. And on this day, the Harvard student newspaper, The Crimson, had an article that mentioned the quote, junior prom. And then we see prom pop up again in 1895 in the diary of a guy named Dwight Morrow. We know about this guy's diary because he went on to become an important ambassador and US senator. I know, because at first it sounds kind of weird. It's like, why do we know this guy's diary? But he became important. So we read his diary, you know? That's what you do. But when he was in college, he wrote in his diary that he had been invited to the junior prom at Smith College. Okay, so those are proms that were happening at college. But high school proms, as we know them today, they began happening around 1920. But they were for white students only. I guess these events were meant to teach kids how to behave properly when it came to race and gender. I know, but it's like, how can you do that when black students aren't even allowed in? Make it make sense. Right. But then high school proms start to gain more popularity. That's because it wanted to give the debutante ball experience to middle-class high schoolers, but without the debutante ball price tag. And of course, it was a hit. Amy Best, the writer of Prom Night, Youth, Schools, and Popular Culture, said, quote, the message was that you did not have to be rich to wear a fancy frock, to be adorned with a corsage, or to waltz the night away. By the 1930s, prom was very important to high schoolers around America. I mean, it was so important that when the Great Depression happened, high school principals postponed their proms. I mean, they did this because they worried less fortunate students would be psychologically wounded if the prom happened and they couldn't afford to go. High school prom at this time looked and felt a lot like debutante balls. I mean, they had the same rules and dress codes. For example, girls could not wear masculine clothing. In other words, no pants. Women could not wear pants, no pants. And in 1938, there was a dating guide that came out, and it was written by Norton Hughes Jonathan. It was called Gentlemen Aren't Sissies. It sounds like a book title written by a high school football coach. Well, Norton here told young men that wooing women the old school way, with a sense of humor and charm, was a waste of time. He said if young men wanted to attract desirable prom dates, they needed to, quote, spend money like water. Yeah, I was kidding, but I wouldn't mind. Anywho, the 1940s and the 50s are considered the golden age of prom. After World War II, the American middle class exploded, and so did proms. This happened because people realized they could actually make money off of teen trends and the prom itself. Prom kings and queens were being crowned left and right, and instead of a simple fancy evening in the high school gym, these proms moved to luxurious hotel ballrooms and big banquet halls. Then in 1954, the Supreme Court ruled in a major case. It was called Brown versus Board of Education. And it essentially said that it was unconstitutional for public schools to be segregated. So effective immediately, public schools that shut out Black students had to open their doors to them. And I mention this because the Supreme Court ruling didn't just cover, the classroom. It also applied to all school events, including prom. But eye roll. Some parents did not like this and went looking for a loophole. In 1970, white parents at Charleston High School in Mississippi, they were pissed off about the Supreme Court decision. So they organized an invite-only prom for just the white students. White parents argued that since these events were privately funded, there were no civil rights violations. And in response, Black parents were like, how about you shut the fuck up? Okay. And then they organized their own prom for their own kids. Around the same time, interest in prom started to dip because during the 60s and the 70s, the counterculture revolution changed everything, and people were rebelling against the establishment. On top of this, a lot of parents were concerned about their kids who were like 18, maybe being drafted into the Vietnam War. So like worrying about prom is like not that important, Eventually pop culture showed up and like got America interested in prom again. In 1976, the horror movie Carrie hit theaters and shocked everyone. You remember Carrie? They came out with a new one too, remember? But you've seen the original Carrie, I hope. The movie featured Carrie, a supernatural teenager, getting a bucket of pig's blood dumped on her head after she's crowned prom queen as a joke. And then she gets her revenge. Carrie does. Oh yes, she does. By trapping everyone inside the gym and then burning them alive. So people were like, yeah, let's go to prom. This really amped me up. Prom stories became lighter and then more fun in the 80s. Movies like Footloose and Pretty in Pink made audiences feel like prom was this amazing thing and like it's an experience no one should miss. People were like, yeah, prom. I don't know. While all this is going on, Charleston High School, Mississippi, their proms were still segregated. And I'm sure there's other ones too. This is one we know about. In 1997, the high school gained national attention when actor Morgan Freeman got involved. Yet 97, they were still doing the shit. Morgan said he was willing to sponsor the prom, meaning pay for it, only if the high school agreed to have one prom for students of all colors. And Charleston High School refused. Yeah, they continued having racially segregated proms up until 2008. And that isn't even like the worst offender. Wilcox County High School in Georgia, they didn't even have their first integrated prom for all of their students until April 27th, 2013. 2013. That was just 11 years ago. And it was the students themselves who made it happen. So when you really start to look at it, prom becomes a reflection of controversial social issues happening in America. For example, prom has also been a battleground for LGBTQ plus and gender rights. In 2016, students at Foothill High School were set to cast their votes for the schools like prom, king and queen. Haley Lack and her girlfriend Jenna, they wanted to be, considered in the race. But then the school got involved and said a lesbian couple could not run to be king and queen. The school principal said the traditional titles of king and queen could only go to a boy and girl. This story quickly picked up national attention, and even the ACLU weighed in, stating it was discrimination based on sexual orientation. So Haley and Jenna, they took their fight all the way to the school district, and they won. The school reversed their decision, and the couple was able to run for prom royalty. I don't know if they won the titles, but I think bigger picture, they definitely won. Yeah, because they got the school policy reversed. I mean, way to go. In 2017, Boylan Catholic High School in Illinois made national headlines because they created a 21-slide presentation explaining what was acceptable to wear to prom. Well, someone got a hold of it and then they published it online. This prom guide said girls' dresses, they shouldn't have necklines low enough to show cleavage and that skirts should hit below mid-thigh. It was all about the dress and, as usual, stated, not much about the menswear. So the issue is due to different body types, the same dress is going to obviously fit much differently from one girl to the next. Plus, if you have a bigger chest, sometimes you can't help it if there's cleavage. Point blank, period. You know what I'm saying? But in this 21-slide presentation, several pages and 11 slides were dedicated to telling the ladies what they could and could not wear. But only 2 slides, just 4 pictures and 1 sentence, talked about the men's dress code. Then just last year, in 2023, a student named B. Hayes was barred from prom at Nashville Christian School because they wore a suit to the event, and The school felt that they should have worn a dress. Unfortunately, the school held firm in their decision, so the community stepped up and threw a private prom for B and 25 of their friends. But despite all the scandals, prom is big business in America.